Good evening and welcome back to World Talks, coming to you live from Warsaw. I'm Salia Strzemska. Germany's Saxony-Anhalt heads to the polls in September, with the far-right AfD holding a commanding lead. Whether it will actually be able to govern remains unclear. But what does its surge tell us about the changing political landscape in Germany and beyond? To discuss, I am joined by Sebastian Schäffer, Director, Institute for the Danube region and Central Europe. Good evening, sir. Delighted to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So let's start with the numbers. The AfD is polling at 41%, almost 20 points ahead of the CDU. What is driving that level of support?
Well, first of all, we have to see that there is a special situation in a East German land, which is Saxony-Anhalt, one of them, who has a long-standing tradition of feeling like second-class citizens, and this is exploited by the populist attempt that the AfD is gaining at politics. The second thing, an important thing, and this is something that clearly is also caused by the current government, but also the coalition partner, the Social Democrats. If we look at the reasons why the AfD is surging so much, it is discontent with how the traditional parties, the democratic parties in Germany, are working. And if we look at the situation that, for instance, Chancellor Friedrich Merz disappeared for 3 weeks into holidays while claiming that the German people need to work harder and need to work more, then this discontent with the traditional parties is, of course, also to a certain degree understandable. And the third point here is that there is the AfD riding on a populist wave where they are exploiting dominant topics like migration. They are claiming that the migrants are undermining Germany, that they are taking away the Germany that they stand for, which honestly never existed in the way that they are imagining it. But it doesn't matter because it resonates with the population and with the electorate in Saxony-Anhalt. And since the other parties are not finding a way to topically counter the AfD, this surge can be explained.
Now, Alice Weidel says the AfD won't just win. She believes it can secure enough support to govern alone. How realistic is that?
It is, unfortunately, because, and I say unfortunately, because it is a testified, certified far-right extremist party, according to the German protection of the constitution and the intelligence services of Germany. And therefore, there is a realistic possibility that this party can govern a land in Germany, which has not happened in the history of democratic Germany. And the reason is that if the current polls materialize like they are, there might be enough votes that are translated into seats that would lead to an absolute majority. This mainly hinges on if smaller parties, like, for instance, the Green Party, the Liberal Party, but also the party of Sarah Wagenknecht will enter the parliament. If more parties enter the parliament, this will not be enough, the current polling, for an absolute majority. But if those parties cannot enter, they would possibly have, due to also the electoral system, which compensates for votes that are gained in single-member districts, that they would have a majority and then could govern.
So let's talk about what an AfD government could actually mean for Saxony-Anhalt. What can the party do?
Well, the possibilities in Saxony-Anhalt are limited because, of course, they can have impact on what we've Alice Weidel was claiming, that we should leave Schengen and Germany. An AfD government Saxony will not be implemented like that. Of course, this will send a signal, and there is also a possibility that they govern even if they get an absolute majority, if one of the other parties are tearing down the so-called firewall, that one of the other parties actually enabling them to govern in that country. And that would send a signal also to the federal party that would challenge Chancellor Merz, who is discussed also internally due to what I mentioned, the prolonged vacation that he took. And this might send ripple effects to the federal government. So the effect will rather be in the future than imminent in the state of Saxony-Anhalt.
Right, because there's this federal dimension as well, right? Governing a state would give the AfD representation in Bundesrat. So how much additional influence would that give the party over national politics?
Not directly through the Bundesrat. It's correct that they would have votes in the Bundestag, but Saxony-Anhalt is a rather small state in Germany, and it would not enable them to block anything at the moment. But it would send the signal that they are a party that is actually governing, and that could have effects in the future elections. It has been mentioned there will be also elections in Mecklenburg-West Pomerania, and there will be elections in Berlin. Both will likely not lead to an AfD-led government. However, it might send signals that voters might turn rather to the AfD if they are some sort of arriving in a government position, even if it's only a state. But the major effect is going to be that the discussion about Friedrich Merz will increase even more than it is at the moment. I'm pretty sure that within the CDU, there will also be a discussion, can we really exclude the AfD from governing? And this will send a rift through the party, which then could have an effect that there will be federal elections. And then there might be a discussion coming up that we might see a winning party of a federal election, which, according to the current polls, would be the AfD. They still could not govern. They would still need a coalition partner. But nevertheless, these things could start a downward spiral where we might, at the end, see not only that there are some ministers from the AfD within a government, but that there, and this is even worse, policies adopted, because at the moment, the way to actually counter the surge of the AfD in polls is to more or less take over some of their policies, which
Right. I mean, I wanted to talk about Friedrich Merz because he once promised to dramatically reduce the AfD's support. Yet, as you've mentioned, the party is now also leading some national voting intention polls at 27% compared with 22% for CDU-CSU. So where has the CDU strategy gone wrong? And has CDU's moving to the right on immigration, for instance, actually strengthened the AfD instead of weakening it?
Well, we see on the one hand, I mean, Alice Weidel claimed that Germany needs to take back control over the borders and leave Schengen. Effectively, at the moment, there are border controls with all countries around Germany, including Poland, which is, by the way, also causing a tremendous burden on the economy, but leaving the Schengen area would even increase that burden into the billions. Anyway, to answer your question, what has gone wrong? I think on the one hand, again, you are not getting voters back that are moving to the AfD while copying their policies. This has not worked. We can see that also, for instance, in Austria, where the Conservative Party has tried to copy certain attempts of the Freedom Party, the far-right Freedom Party, which then led also only to a surge for the Freedom Party and not for the Conservatives. And the second thing that I have to say is here, if we look at the situation, how Friedrich Merz was attacking the government before he became chancellor, the way he was attacking the Greens and their policies, and it is his right to do so as an opposition leader, I would have loved to see him also attacking, when he is the chancellor, the policies of the AfD in the same way, because I think this is something that would change ultimately the surge of the AfD if they are really tackled with the policies that they are claiming. If we actually would talk about the consequences, what leaving the euro would mean for Germany. But we're not talking about this. We're talking about the surging polls, and we're talking about the extended vacation that Friedrich Merz took. And instead of attacking the AfD's policies and actually making pro-European sound policies, Friedrich Merz is copying some of their demands. As I said, closing temporarily the borders is mirroring the demand of Alice Weidel to leave Schengen, because at the moment Schengen is not functioning.
Sebastian Schäffer, thank you so very much for joining us this evening and for sharing your analysis. Much appreciated. And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned for more here on TVP World.